Good morning, everyone, everywhere, all at once. How are you doing today? Welcome into the program. My big question to start off the program is, are the furries in the house? I don't think they are, but we spent a lot of time doing a lot of stuff to get the furries excited today because we have a special group of people out there today who will be tuning into the program, who are furries attending a furry convention in Atlanta. Now, it seems as though I can't be heard. Why is that? Hello, do you hear me? Huh, why would that be? Can you hear me? Fascinating. You can hear me. Fascinating. Why? Huh. Well, fascinating stuff. Good morning, everyone. Weird as heck. Huh. Give your old pal Deuce 1 second here, because he sees no indication of anything in his use of microphones. Hey everybody, how are you doing today? We are ready to get started. We have some information that we would like to share with everyone. Madison has a clock. I don't know what that clock means. Hey, thank you so much, Jason, for all of the hearts. It's so exciting to have you here with us. Now, what I'm going to share with you today is not what I would like for everyone to be using at all times. I am going to be using something called ChatGPT, and I do not recommend it for everyone to use. Yes, and. Now, I also feel like I don't, whatever. There we go. Interesting. Can you, and then where's the mic? Can you hear me now? This is so weird. I'm so upset. As per usual, I'm starting the program in an unprofessional manner. My microphone is not registering on my end, but as long as people tell me that they can hear me, that is wonderful. So we want to talk about the furry origins, the hoax of the furry litter boxes in the classroom. We want to talk about that. And we want to talk about that in relation to our rise of fascism in this country. And then later on, we're going to talk a little bit about our news ecosystem. We're going to talk a little bit about your media diets. We're so grateful for everyone who's here. We're so grateful for all of the fact warriors who are ready to flood the zone with facts today. Yes, and. Yes, and we are a group of people who care about the media diets of every single human being, because we understand deeply that the media diets of every single human being is how we got here. We understand that the system for informing the public that is legacy media, and in the way that they launder right-wing disinformation and propaganda and hate and attacks on civil rights into the mainstream as just normal business, doing business as DBA, as they say, how that leads to a society. There's some people who would say that we are wrong. There are some people who would say that we are tilting at windmills. There are some who would say that the information people receive about the world has nothing to do with how they then act. That seems like a wild accusation to me, because 99% of what we all know about the world comes to us from other people, usually strangers. And so who do we trust? How do we trust them? How do we make sense of our world in this time? Welcome, Dara. Welcome, Madison. Welcome, Jason. Who else can you tell about the program today before we kick things off? Who will call in today? What will happen today? How will you be a fact warrior today? How will you tell people that you love them today? Will you tell someone that you haven't talked to in a long time that you love them? Will you call a friend that you have that energy inside you to call, say, hey, I've been thinking about you and I've never called. I always say I should call you. And you call them and you say, I love you. Well, this is hurting my numbers, Madison. This is hurting my numbers on Twitch, where I have to average over 3 viewers per stream. Otherwise, I cannot become an affiliate. And so we ask you to log into your loved ones and partners and siblings' technology and just tune it to publicenlightenment.com. You don't have to get him up. Just access his phone. Hell yeah, Madison, that sounds great. Well, so look, I'm going to do other stuff besides all this furry stuff that I prepared. And in fact, you know, I won't say it. I spent a long time working on furry stuff. So we want to share some other of the things that we worked on just to get everybody excited. You know, this program is for everyone who comes in who's new as well. But this program also likes to satisfy the needs and desires of its current adherents, the people who are full of love for this experience and for this place. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about, oh, hello. Okay, here we go. Now listen, Michaela, if all of your friends could tune in on their own devices, that would be incredible. But Michaela, no problem. Michaela, I want to show you how the program started today. This program today is going to be focused on a subset of our friends. This is how we started the program today, Michaela. This is obviously your old pal Deuce. So we have the story. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Technology. Okay, so we have the story here today of how Rev Deuce was created. And it turns out that Rev Deuce had a furry friend all along the way in the 2020s as he changed the world by giving people the gift of fact-based information in a time of terror and horror. In fact, when Rev Deuce confronted fear on the shores of Boca Raton, when fear appeared to Deuce in the origin story of this religion, there was a little furry friend with him who was helping him to spread the good gospel of facts and fact-based information. And he and that furry friend went across the world, saving people, delivering them from the darkness of disinformation, and bringing them to a promised land. That promised land sometimes seemed so far away as he led the people through the desert of disinformation, through the desert of misinformation, through the desert of lies, of cruelty, of hatred and division that was being created by the billionaires and the oligarchs. At all times, his furry friend was at his side, sometimes adopting the allure of itself. Hey, now that's what Rev Deuce looks like. We can't deny it. Shouldn't deny it. And so, with the help of his furry friend, Rev Deuce ended up where we all are today, here worshiping facts in the tub of joy. And so the people began to learn and understand that the only way out of the disinformation reality that was being created for them by the billionaires and the oligarchs was to follow in the path of Rev Deuce and his furry friend, to follow in the path of fact-based information, information that will heal the nation from disinformation. Journalism is the immune system of democracy. And so when we worship at the altar of facts, we come to understand that it is better to deal in fact-based information that will ultimately help us all to be talking about the same thing, to connect across our divides. Yes, we may argue about politics, but it is impossible to make any advancements, to debate the solutions and their efficacy, if 1/3 of our country is imbibing milkshakes of dog shit and broken glass when it comes to their media diet. Yes, and. For friends, we are constantly in an information war. Yes, and. Every single time we are online, on the other side of the screen are giant dickheads from Iran, from China, from Russia, and from America, seeking to manipulate all of us. Steve Bannon wanders the country, flooding the zone with shit at all times. Yes, and. And so we push back on that program of Steve Bannon's at all times in this world. That's right, Rev Deuce is here to lead you all through the wilderness of disinformation. Rev Deuce is here to help everyone understand, and he is here to take on the Steve Bannons of the world. For in the 2020s, Rev Deuce came to the shores of America armed with orbs of fact, and he took on the disinformers who would flood the zone with shit. Yes, and he turned all of America into fact warriors. Fact warriors. Yes, and. Fact warriors. And so as the people were dealing with the likes of Steve Bannon, Rev Deuce traveled the country going to MAGA rallies and telling the people that they were hooked up to a stream of disinformation, that their media diet in fact was milkshakes of disinformation. And Rev Deuce cared deeply, and he brought his orbs of fact around the nation, and he helped people to get off of the propaganda stream that was purpose-built to manipulate him. Yes, that is how Rev Deuce works. His jujitsu is so strong that he can twist his entire arm. Yes, and. Yes, and. And so, along with his furry friend, Rev Deuce was able to save the world by spreading fact-based information to everyone. Yes, and. Now, you may be alarmed by what you saw, Madison, with Rev Deuce's hand, but you have to understand that Rev Deuce is a being of pure light, just as you are. And so when Rev Deuce thwarts disinformation across the land, Rev Deuce is able to twist his body. The light emerges from him in the face of the newsstands that say to give up, that also say to give, paradoxically, but say to give up, to consume, and to conform. And so Rev Deuce is here in the face of the Steve Bannons of the world. Incredible Madison. Incredible Madison. Yes, Rev Deuce has been working with his furry friends this whole time to save the world. And it's not always easy. Sometimes the forces are so strong. Sometimes the forces of disinformation, the Steve Bannons of the world who want to flood the zone with shit, are so very strong. And they have chased Rev Deuce in his mission away from the MAGAs. The MAGAs are not always willing to talk to Rev Deuce, Because Steve Bannon is chasing them and Rev Deuce at all times with giant poop. That is right. He is flooding the zone with shit, just as Rev Deuce aims to flood the zone with light. And with that, friends, we welcome you into the program today. Michaela, get your friends gathered round. We are going to talk about the origins. We are going to talk about, my name is Deuce after all, Madison. We are going to talk at the beginning of the program today about the origins of the right-wing hoax about furries using kitty litter boxes, children who identify as furries and children in kitty litter boxes. I got a few interesting pieces of information. I did use ChatGPT because I was pressed for time. I advise everyone, if they use ChatGPT, to double check. When ChatGPT makes an assertion, I advise you to then type in, say, give me the sources of your assertions. And I advise you to go and read those, and that is what your friend Rev Deuce did. Oh, I just transitioned from one thing to the same thing. Perfect. Isn't that perfect? Now, fascinatingly, what is happening? Why does this tub have no... It does. Okay, so now everyone can hear that. That's so weird. Grayson is advising that when we want to use sources, we should use those sources in the first place. We should tell ChatGPT, give me your sources as well. So say, cite your sources for that so that you save energy. Incredible. So at first I asked ChatGPT, I said, tell me everything you know about the right-wing campaign about kitty litter in the classrooms. And this is what it told me. It said Lisa Hansen, a parent in Midland, Michigan in December 2021, stood up during a school board meeting and falsely claimed that a school was putting litter boxes in bathrooms for students who identify as cats. Now, that claim, when she was asked for evidence, she said she heard it from someone. Thank you, Lance. It's good to see you today and to be with you, and we hope that you are so ready for a wonderful convention. A furry con, as it were. Now, here is part of the way that it was spread. Who are the figures who spread this disinformation hoax? This piece of disinformation that really, when we get into it later, we will learn is more about the reality that the right-wing disinformation propaganda ecosystem is one that is conversational, one that has a back and forth between the figures at the top who have access to the means of communication, the pundits, and the people who pay the pundits, interact online with things that often can even arrive in the 4chan space. And then those things come to haunt all of society. We're going to look into the work of scholar and former WNBA star Kate Starbird. Kate Starbird became a disinformation expert after her career in professional basketball. And she and her colleagues wrote about how the right-wing disinformation ecosystem is a lot like improv comedy. But so if we look on the screen, we see that Joe Rogan in early 2022 repeated the story on his podcast. Later, he admitted he was wrong. He said, I fed into that. I actually looked into it, and guess what? It's not true. Well, that's not really being very responsible. Joe Rogan is a disinformation agent in this world. Do not listen to Joe Rogan. You can, of course, go to Public Enlightenment's article. Joe Rogan is the most political podcast on the planet. And you can share that as widely as you want to. That Rev Deuce wrote that in response to the reality that many people were saying, you know, Joe Rogan's not that political. He's a comedian. And it is true that Joe Rogan often has comedians on his program, but even whenever he has comedians on his program, he gets into those culture war topics. He brings them up. They talk about woke and how you can't say anything anymore or do comedy anymore. What a bunch of little boys. What a bunch of scared little boys who'd have no ability to be brave. And that's okay. Everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. But is that who we should be turning to for our information? Absolutely not. So if you're new to the program, could you please give Rev Deuce a follow, a like, a subscribe? Because we are going through our right-wing disinformation ecosystem. We are understanding that facts are what we must worship in a time of darkness, where we have fascism in America, where we have a post-constitutional order being created, and the people are not taking to the streets with the frequency and prominence that is required in the face of this. Political scientists have conducted studies and determined that if 3.5% of any population takes to the streets in the face of an authoritarian uprising, that 3.5% of people usually, not always, but usually, is effective at peacefully undermining that authoritarian's rise. We recently had, I don't know who it was. I think it was John Oliver or Jon Stewart. We'll remind you that even though it sounds weird to say, that John Oliver is one of the greatest journalists alive today. 25-minute episodes that fully contextualize issues and often undermine the disinformation stream of the right-wing propaganda ecosystem. But we will also say that what we saw was a quote from William Rehnquist, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who said that public opinion, any judge worth their salt, is not going to make a decision based upon public opinion. But there are times when a judge is making a decision that if a great tide of public opinion can inform their ruling. And so, yes, and we must all take to the streets. So then Lauren Boebert claimed in a campaign speech that schools were accommodating furries for providing litter boxes. Marjorie Taylor Greene alluded to the furry claims, right? So this claim, where did it first originate? How did Lisa Hansen, a Midland, Michigan mom, how did she originate this claim, or how did this claim get into her brain so that all of these agents of disinformation could share it? They put these claims out and then they walked them back because they have no relationship with truth. They only have a relationship with trying to deceive people and undermine them. Do not look at the things that Rev Deuce has searched for in the past. Morning routine productivity. I don't even remember that one. Fox News and right-wing influencers went on to share it more. So there are a bunch of fact checks. We are going to look into them. This is really just to help your friend Deuce talk about it, and so he has it up on the screen. So why did this work? Especially existing transphobic narratives mocking the idea of gender identity as a choice or a delusion. It taps into parental fears, which the right-wing disinformation ecosystem plays up with astroturfs like Moms for Liberty. Astroturfs was created by right-wing operatives, Republican operatives. The wife of the Florida representative of the Republican Party is the one who actually started Moms for Liberty, and there's no such thing in the grassroots world. There's no reality in which an organization can spread to hundreds of chapters and have millions of dollars in funding within 1 year of its existence, and not let alone to have tens of thousands of members. Yo, Emma, what is up? We are talking about furries. We are talking about the origin. So I knew a little bit more than ChatGPT did about this, so I asked for some other things. I also, again, want to model. I said, please provide links to the fact checks. So here are those fact checks. Fact check: no evidence in U.S. schools of providing litter boxes. Associated Press: no, schools aren't placing litter boxes in bathrooms for students. Did a school district in Michigan put litter boxes in bathrooms? No. all of these fact checks. Now here's a little infographic. But we're going to go deeper. What's up, Emma? Welcome into the house. If you appreciate what we are doing here, please give a like, a follow, a subscribe. Give Rev Deuce all of your money. Tell 7,000 people you know right now that you have found a new religion, that you have become a fact warrior. Fact warrior! Tell the people that you used to imbibe information light, but then you were given the light by Rev Deuce, and now with your media diet being so strong, being so pure, being so full of facts and context and pro-democracy information, you now have buns that are information tight. Yes, we worship facts here in the face of a reality where disinformers have the ear of billionaires who want to push their agenda on everyone and continue to divide us. Yes, the business elite of America since the 1970s have been trying to make us dumber. It is true. It sounds crazy, but it is true. The real conspiracy, MAGA, is the Christian right billionaires and the unholy marriage they entered into with the fossil fuel billionaires to build hundreds of think tanks. Look up the States Policy Network. Look up the Heritage Foundation, look up Donors Trust, look up the Uline families, the Bradley family, the Scaife family. They are all the Soroses that you are told to fear incarnate. Yes, and so tell all of your friends about what we do here. Yes, Eric Schmidt, that's right. We're talking to you. So then I loaded in this Wikipedia article, which had more information, and it told me that it wasn't just Lauren Boebert, it wasn't just Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was influential figures like terrorist organization Libs of TikTok and Bill Cunningham, a right-wing radio host in Ohio. Then ChatGPT hipped me to the reality of something called shitposting or culture jamming, where some of these right-wing information ecosystem bullshit culture war ideas that are multiplied and generated and built up and manufactured in the right-wing think tanks by the psychological arms dealers of the Christian nationalist billionaire right. These communities, 4chan communities, sometimes manufacture absurdities intentionally to test how easily misinformation can spread. This is also the behavior of the right wing and global authoritarian and foreign adversary troll farms. And prior to this, in that 4chan space, sorry, Ida Schmaltz, I can't read. Who's Eric Schmidt? I misread Ida Schmaltz. And they hip us to the reality that furry equals trans conflation has long been a mocking shorthand in online right-wing spaces. We're not going to go to those spaces. So as we saw yesterday on TikTok with our friend Alicia, they provide no evidence for a lot of these things, but they just make these claims, and then people like our friend Alicia in the MAGA universe just absorb them. Now, Bill Cunningham repeated the hoax on air as well. He is an iHeartRadio radio personality. iHeartRadio, which most of your radio is wherever you are in the country. iHeartRadio is owned by conservative right-wing billionaires. This phenomenon went international. Australia politicians, including Pauline Hanson, referenced the hoax in parliamentary comments 2 years after they became more widely known in the U.S. $15 million Americans are reached every day by right-wing radio, Emma. And if you ever tune into right-wing radio, as Rev Deuce did when he was traveling the country in a van, you know that It is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. If you go somewhere besides basically the largest cities on the coasts, and even in many of the largest cities on the coasts, and you tune the radio dial, it is either Christian religious services or it is right-wing disinformation radio hosts. And our politicians appear on them. Ted Cruz appears on them almost every single day. And he interacts with the hosts, and they just say things that aren't true. So I wanted to look into Bill Cunningham a little bit, and so we did. He discussed the hoax during an interview with Republican Senate candidate J.D. Vance at the time. We don't know what J.D. Vance said in response, but if J.D. Vance said anything other than this seems like totally fallacious information and we shouldn't be pushing this idea out to the public, Bill, then J.D. Vance failed in this moment. So then I wanted to learn more about Bill Cunningham. Bill Cunningham likes to say Barack Hussein Obama. Bill Cunningham likes to say that Obama's father was a typical black father who left the baby. Bill Cunningham likes to say that Obama wanted to unalive certain Semitic people the way that Schmittler did. I know I'm not on TikTok, but I'm just going to talk this way. So Bill Cunningham is just one example of a right-wing radio extremist who people listen to, who has had a career for decades. He says things like, people lack values, ethics, and morals. Poor people, that is. He mocks police brutality victims all the way back as far as 2003. He does not seem to have any ties to wealthy right-wing donors or right-wing think tanks. Yes, Emma, that is true. We also hear from our MAGA loved ones and friends and family online often that Kamala Harris was not a person of God and that Donald Trump is. And that speaks to the absolute destruction of separation of church and state in many of our especially evangelical spaces around the country, where the pastors are in conversation with our political leaders on the right. So then I said, do you know anything about kitty litter being in classrooms in Colorado in and around 2010 during school shooter drills? Because that is something else that Rev Deuce was aware of, and he wanted to have ChatGPT not be the be-all and end-all. ChatGPT is often wrong about things, so you need to ask ChatGPT or any AI program for sources. But in the wake of the school shootings in Columbine and in Sandy Hook, some schools began to prepare for extended lockdowns where students and teachers might be confined to classrooms for hours, and they did create Go buckets, 5-gallon buckets with kitty litter or absorbent material. This happened in Colorado. This happened in other states. FEMA and DHS guidance in the early 2010s endorsed emergency kits that might have buckets for children to use the bathroom if, in this dystopia that we live in, they were in a lockdown for an extended period of time. So here are links to the NPR article. Schools are using around the U.S. are using Go buckets. Snopes acknowledged in this fact check. This link isn't verified. What does that mean? What does that mean? Interesting. That link isn't there. Why is that? Is this article here? Huh, this is fascinating. Why aren't these things here? Okay, let me look it up separately. school lockdown. Go Buckets. NPR. Okay, Time Magazine, 2019. Among other school supplies, teachers in one Colorado public school district were recently given buckets and kitty litter so students are able to use the bathroom in the event of a lockdown, the district confirmed to Time. Some teachers were given Go Buckets at a back-to-school training within the Jefferson County Public School District. This is the same district where Columbine happened. So please always go check your information, but we have Time, a reputable, fact-based organization, verifying these pieces of information. So these things existed in the world, and the right-wing media ecosystem picked them up and ran with them. Okay? Now, let's go look at sort of how these things may have happened. There is some evidence that prior to this teacher standing, this parent standing up in Michigan, Lisa Hansen, in 2021, that this was already something that was being discussed. So let's go look at how this kind of rises. Here we have Joe Rogan over here, who was referenced as someone who just wildly pushed that idea. If you've ever wondered how the right-wing media ecosystem operates and why it's effective, try viewing it as a form of improvisational theater or comedy. In the wake of the 2024 U.S. elections, pundits alike have been trying to make the sense of the results and the related observation that many Americans seems to be experiencing very different realities. These realities are shaped by very different media ecosystems. Rev Deuce loves lateral browsing. How media sources distort America's understanding of reality from Ipsos. Hell yeah, we're going to read that later. Democrats tend to trust institutional media and network news more than Republicans. In contrast, Republicans have developed what they see as a more trustworthy and explicitly partisan alternative media ecosystem that has rapidly evolved and flourished in the internet era. Cultivating robust alternative media has been a political strategy of the right for decades. We're going to open this link. Hell yeah, Rev Deuce loves lateral browsing. Given the interactive nature, hello Karen Johnson, hello Lillian. Given the interactive nature of social media and ongoing investments by the right in digital media, the right-wing media ecosystem has become a highly participatory space filled with influencers, political elites, and audiences. Bear with me as I play a video for you that directly talks about this. Pardon me. Pardon me. Give me 1 second, everyone. We are going to get this piece of information for you. Oh, Rev Deuce forgets which piece that he wrote about this in. Give Rev Deuce 1 second, everyone. Please enjoy yourselves. Think about the friend who you will call later on in your day. Think about Here we go. Thank you so much for bearing with me.
The same. it's not really the same. Dana, we are waging a 21st century information warfare campaign against the left, and they are using tactics from the 1990s. They are holding tiny press conferences, tiny little rallies. They're screaming into the ether on MSNBC. This is what you call top-down command and control. You get your talking points from a newspaper, and you put it on the broadcast network, and then it disappears. What you're seeing on the right is asymmetrical. It's like grassroots guerrilla warfare. Someone says something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it, and by the time it reaches everybody, millions of people have seen it. It's free money. And we're actually talking about expressing information. They are suppressing it.
Well, we'll stop him before he spreads that disinformation about information. Good morning, bathrobe guy. Welcome into the space. If you're enjoying the program, everyone, who can you run and tell, like Paul Revere, that the fact man is coming? The fact man is coming. Hard to say. Hello, how are you? Hard to say just tipped Rev Deuce and said the grift is working. Yes, and thank you. That is the first time we have achieved monetization in this way. Yes, and a million times over. Yes, and this show is sponsored by Grass Milk, but it does not pay me. So I am so grateful for you. Hard to say. Hard to say. Would you also become a follower? I don't want to push too hard in this moment, but Grass Milk does not pay me anything. I'm just such a fan of Grass Milk that I am so grateful for your donation. Now, hard to say, I also would love a follow so that I can become an affiliate on Twitch and we can do this every single day. Hard to say, you are a fact warrior. We are so grateful for you. You are spreading fact-based information across the nation at all times. We are every single day talking about the consequences of Donald Trump's coup. We are checking in on everyone's media diets to make sure that in the face of people like Steve Bannon who are flooding the zone with shit, that we are flooding the zone with facts, and we are generating and creating more fact warriors who worship facts in a time of darkness. Emma, you cheeky mofo. At a time when the people found it impossible to understand their world, when phenomenon like the election of a adjudicated rapist and a proclaimed sexual abuser, a con man who has lied and attacked the press since the 1980s, someone whose wife credibly accused him of sexual assault and then rescinded it in the face of threats, someone whose wife said that Donald Trump kept a book of Hitler's speeches by his bedside table. Yes, that's right. That's a real thing that Ivana Trump said about Donald Trump. At a time when people find it hard and difficult to understand why Christians would say that Donald Trump, a man of lying and corruption, obvious corruption of an unprecedented scale in human and presidential history, is a man of God. At a time that they are saying that, the people sought to understand their world in the face of those who had flooded the zone with shit. And so Rev Deuce went through the nation telling the people that they could be delivered from this darkness, that they could once again connect with one another. And he was joined by his furry friend who helped him at all times. Yes, and. So, will you be a fact warrior today and save America, indeed save the planet, by committing to spreading fact-based information? Yes, and. We're just having so much fun, aren't we? Who else can you tell about this program? Yes, and now let's get back into what we were talking about, that the right-wing disinformation ecosystem, as even admitted by Jesse Waters, disinformation purveyor extraordinaire Jesse Waters, that even he is admitting to what our friend Kate Starbird, former WNBA star, who became a disinformation expert, who works at the University of Washington. So, cultivating robust alternative media has been a political strategy of the right for decades. Given the interactive nature of social media and ongoing investments by the right in digital media, the right-wing media ecosystem has become a highly participatory space filled with influencers, political elites, and audiences. These players engage in year-round conversations that inspire and adapt political messaging in the same way that we witnessed with this furry kitty litter hoax. The collaborations are not tightly scripted, but improvised, facilitated by the interactivity of digital media, as Jesse Waters just admitted. For all these reasons, researchers of information ecosystems and influencer culture find it useful to think of right-wing media as a kind of improv theater. Now, this is where they don't really understand improv theater. They understand it in the sense that there is interaction with the audience, in the sense of you get a suggestion at the beginning and that becomes the seedling for your show. But then it no longer becomes a language-based interaction. It is literally, if the audience laughs at something, that sound of surprise, which is what laughter is after all. It is simply the sound of surprise. That is when the improviser knows, okay, maybe there is something to investigate here. This metaphor helps us understand the social and digital structure, culture, and pervasive power of right-wing influence, which is reshaping politics in the U.S. and around the world. Influencers are the performers in this real-life improv show that plays out on a stage of social media, news feeds, podcasts, cable newsrooms, and partisan online media outlets. The performers include political pundits and media personalities, as well as a dynamic group of online opinion leaders, who often ascend from the audience to the stage, in part by recognizing and exploiting the dynamics of digital media. So this would be mimicking and a metaphor for the class structure, where there are jams and you can get onto the stage with the people who are on house teams at an improv theater, just as Cat Turd may be lifted up. Cat Turd is a disinforming right-wing Twitter account, just so everyone understands what I'm talking about. Cat Turd may be lifted up or may inform what J.D. Vance says or what Jesse Waters says. These influencers work together, performing a variety of roles based on a set of informal rules and performance conventions, sharing vague but emotionally resonant memes, just asking questions to each other, trolling a journalist, evidencing claims with data or photos, sometimes taken out of context, all the while engaging with each other's content. Just as in improv, performers work daily to find a game from their audience, internet forums, and each other. The game in improv is a concept or story with a novel element around which a performer revolves. That is, once a compelling game is found, performers raise the stakes. Right, so it is basically using the understanding of sketch comedy, where you have the inciting idea and then you heighten it. That is what they are talking about with game. The UCB, Citizens Brigade, they teach game. The Groundlings teaches game. Other improv theaters do not, but the most prominent ones do teach game. Performers following a loose script, collaborating toward a shared goal. Digital media environments provide additional infrastructure. The platform features network and algorithms that shape the performances. As in improv shows, the political performers may use a technique called a callback, referencing a previous line, exchange, or game that the audience is familiar with. One of Rev Deuce's best qualities in an improv setting is that he does like to try to remember and bring things back later on in the set. Performers might react to calls from an engaged audience that cheers, jeers, and steers the actors as the show unfolds. Okay, so that is as far as they are going, and that is what Deuce was talking about earlier. The audience may also prompt an entire skit by bringing a story to the attention of influencers or politicians. That is what Libs of TikTok does, the terrorist organization and domestic terrorist Chena Raichik, something like that is her name. She literally has been such an instigator of horseshit online that she has gotten bomb threats called into schools and into hospitals, into pediatric wings of hospitals. That is a terrorist in my book. Speaking of, actors and audiences in right-wing media also engage in transgressive, controversial, or even offensive bits as they test the boundaries of their shared taste, expectations, and for political performers' ideologies. Like a lot of improv shows, these performances feel intimate and authentic. Audience members can talk to the performers after and sometimes during the show. They can also be invited on stage, as this article just referenced. They mentioned it twice. The idea is so nice, they mentioned it twice. So let's talk about this in relation to their eating the pets, and we can see in this case study the relation to the furry hoax, which we have been talking about today, because Rev Deuce is spending time with his furry friends today. Can I get a shout out in the chat from the furry friends who are at the furry convention in Atlanta? Yes, and we love you. Check it out. We have built some fun little things for you today. This is Rev Deuce interacting with his furry friend in the park, handing them the good gospel of the good news. The good news of fact-based information as reported by journalists and reporters, journalists being the immune system of democracy. And there you see our good buddy, Lemon Raccoon. I did my best. Receiving the good news from their good pal, Rev Deuce. And even though looking slightly different, Rev Deuce's furry pals have helped him to spread fact-based information and the gospel of fact-based information throughout the world. And so we are so grateful for the fact-based information warriors who understand that at all times, in the face of fear, yes, that dragon is the embodiment of fear in Deuce's origin story. So we are so grateful for our furry friends who are tuning in today. And we are talking about how the right wing generates its hoaxes and its disinformation, and how that is then lifted up from the cesspools of the 4chan areas and the meme creation areas and the small little boys like Edward Korestein who exist in horrific spaces online. Edward Korestein being Big Balls, the member of Elon Musk's scam Doge team, who has spent time in something called Kiwi Farms, which gets people to commit unaliving of themselves by harassing them endlessly. Yes, that is right. A Kiwi Farms member, someone who wants to harass people online until they unalive themselves, is working in our government to destroy our government. And then he is being invited on to Fox News by Jesse Waters, and where he is hosted by Jesse Waters and Elon Musk to talk about what they are doing, as though what they are doing is anything other than perpetuating a self-enrichment scam on behalf of Elon Musk and his techno-fascist buddies, and on behalf of Donald Trump. Yes, and the corruption is out of control in this country right now. If you agree, like, subscribe, follow with Rev Deuce as we try to spread fact-based information across the nation. So the furry hoax originated in these online spaces where they test the waters by pushing misinformation and seeing how far they can go. So maybe there was the kernel of truth that existed in one of their minds of one of these random anonymous people in a 4chan chat, in a Reddit chat, who knew that they were using kitty litter go buckets in the 2010s in school lockdown exercises, because if there was going to be a prolonged lockdown, they had places in this dystopian reality that we live in where children might be able to use the bathroom by using a bucket with absorbent material in it. Then that became the notion that they were allowing children to use the bathroom in school. Then that became the notion, as also existed in these 4chan spaces, the reality that, not the reality, the idea they put forth that identity meant that you could identify as anything, right? That idea that's been floating in our culture, that's what's next, identifying as dogs, what's next, identifying as cats. Because even though trans people exist and have existed for the entire time humans have been alive, because of the beauty of our genetic and biological expressions, there has always been 1% of the population that has been trans. That is just a fact about the world, but the right wing cannot handle it. The Christian nationalist billionaires who own and control our means of communication cannot handle it, and their apparatchiks know that they can take advantage of the right wing mentality, the people who are MAGA, who are doing the best they can with what they have, but they are able to be manipulated by this manipulation ecosystem that has been created for them. Yes, and. And so that extrapolation of if you are able to identify as a different gender, then you are next going to identify as a different animal, which is not how it works. Our furry friends are cosplaying. Sure, some of them may wish to be an animal, but no one is going to transition. I don't know, help me out, furry friends. Is this real? No one is really looking to transition into an animal. But so the right wing says, we're going to push that idea, and then that idea gets turned into a salacious accusation, like for children who identify as furries, they are allowed to take big dumps in the classroom directly next to their fellow students, something that is so ridiculous, something that is so beyond the pale of what would happen in any classroom, that it spreads like wildfire, because lies spread faster than truth. And truth is harder to generate and arrive at than lies. To get at the truth is so valuable in a democracy. It takes time, it takes journalists, it takes investigation, it takes resources. A lie can simply be expressed by the resource of any random fear-based dickhead's brain. So let's get into this case study of the way that the right wing interacts. We're going to look at this. They're eating the pets. One example of right-wing media as improv came in fall 2024 when then-candidate Donald Trump baselessly claimed from a debate stage that Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio were stealing and eating pets. Prior to Trump referencing them, rumors of pet eating had been circulating in local Springfield Facebook groups. Facebook, I have learned, has permanently banned me. I do not know why. It has nothing to do with me talking about disinformation. I think it has to do with me setting up a separate account to use Facebook Marketplace and using a different first letter of my surname. But they care so much about someone like me making possibly an account that has a different first letter of my surname, but they have no problem with people spreading disinformation in local Springfield Facebook groups. Mark Zuckerberg is a fear-based dickhead who is pushing fascism, who is making it easier for our LGBTQ plus friends, loved ones, and neighbors to be maligned. Literally, they carved out an exception in their rules so that made it so that you could attack LGBTQ plus people and you would not be kicked off of the platform. So these claims were amplified about eating the cats and eating the dogs when a local neo-Nazi leader discussed the issue in a recorded town hall meeting, which circulated in apps like Telegram and Gab. Influencers who monitor these channels elevated the story, finding a new game with a novel element. A Reddit post of a photo of a man holding a bird walking down the street was taken out of context by influencers and falsely used as evidence of immigrants eating pets. Memes, particularly those made by artificial intelligence, started spreading rapidly, catching the attention of politicians who should know better, but obviously they don't, because they are fear-based dickheads acting out fear's pattern of shame, abuse, persecution, violence, and bigotry at all times. We need to get Senator Ted Cruz and Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene out of the halls of power and on to the couch of therapy. Yes, and this raised the stakes of the improv game by tying these smaller memes to a larger political narrative about needing to stop migration at the southern border. The improv act reached its zenith when Trump and then Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance elevated the claims during the week of the September debate. They presented the claims with both seriousness and a bit of tongue-in-cheek awareness that the point of the story was not necessarily about immigrants, but about the attention the narrative garnered. Later on, Vance said that he was fine with creating stories if they served his narrative. The vice president of the United States said he was fine with creating stories with lying as long as they advanced his narrative. That alone, 20 years ago, would have been enough to end this whole thing. But we live in a right-wing dominant manipulation information ecosystem that then is laundered by the mainstream into all of our homes, all of our towns, all of our phones, all of our newspapers, all of our hands that look at the things we hold in them and beam into our eyes the information that we use to process the world. I don't care what you read. Tell me about your media diet in the chat. I don't care what you read. What you read shapes what you think. And if you don't believe that, well, you can agree with me that what you read shapes what you think about. What you see online shapes what you think about. What you see every single time you are on one of the fear-based algorithms tuned by the global authoritarians and billionaires to divide us, what you see there shapes what you think about. If you agree, can I get a yes and in the chats, please? So Kate Starbird and her colleagues work at University of Washington Center for an Informed Public. Hell yeah, we love that. And they are the ones who have been working on this information. I didn't hear any hell yes. Sorry, I didn't hear any yes ands. Is there a major delay today? If you are coming into the space, we would love a like, a follow, a subscribe, because what we are doing here is worshiping facts. For the people. We're existing in a time where it was impossible to know who to trust, which politicians to turn to, in a world that was unreliable, in a world where disinformers had taken advantage of the ecosystem of information, where they flooded the zone with shit in order to confuse people and keep them from having any trust in anything. In a world where people were led by a religious figure, Rev Deuce, towards a promised land of fact-based information. And as Rev Deuce toured the online spaces, gathering more and more adherents who desired more than anything to regain the human connection that had once made America a place of joy, laughter, and energy. As he gathered the people by spreading the gospel of fact-based pro-democracy information, Rev Deuce gained followers and adherents, and he brought the world closer to the promised land of joy and human connection in the face of fear. I've got so many of these dumb things now that it's hard for me to get back to the main scene. So we want to honor Robin in the chat who said yes, and Bill Cunningham, the disinformer from earlier who spreads horrific things that we were talking about. He is on Clear Channel where emotional response content is policy. J.D. Vance owes Bill Cunningham. I guess what you're saying is that Bill Cunningham was very prominent in the rise of J.D. Vance in Ohio when he was a Senate candidate. Yes, and we want to share this with you, everybody. We want to share a piece of information with you about the Democratic Party. Now, we do not like to crap on the Democratic Party because it is the only viable opposition party in a time when we want to avoid a hot war. Let's be real, okay? We want to avoid a hot war. Yes, and welcome in, Holly Hageman. Today we have been exploring the disinformation right-wing propaganda space that has been purpose-built by the right-wing billionaires over the last 60 years who have generated hundreds of think tanks to manipulate the public discourse. But we were hipped to this reality of the failures of the Democratic Party yesterday. And I need to find this piece of information. Who is this guy again? He writes for American Prospect. That's right. American Prospect is one of the fact-based... Okay, here we go. So Trump is literally scamming hundreds of thousands of Americans. Oh, sorry. Here we go. Trump is literally scamming... David, give me 1 second when I can think about doing that song for everybody. Trump is literally scamming hundreds of thousands of Americans out of billions of dollars with a crypto scam right now, and Democrats in the Senate are enthusiastically on his team. This is from David Dayen yesterday. Democrats reached a deal on a stablecoin bill that will give them a fake amendment on Trump crypto corruption that is designed to fail so collaborators can say they did the best they could. Schumer 101, said one source. Okay, we have to replace these Democrats with other Democratic politicians who are going to stand up for the people. David, I do not understand exactly what you mean. Robin, yes, it is. It was pushed, however, by national figures as well. Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Steve Bolduc. But yes, you are right, Robin, yes. Democrats prepare to rubber stamp crypto corruption. Now, let's be real. The corruption, the crypto corruption, the real corrupt figures are obviously these people on the right. You know, it's wild. Donald Trump does not care about any of his constituents whatsoever. Donald Trump is one of the most corrupt people to ever exist in society. If I were to say that in front of a MAGA person right now, they would tell me I had Trump derangement syndrome, which is what we are all speaking about here today. We are speaking about the reality that our friends and loved ones have been given the final command by the MAGA party. Do not believe the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final and most important command. Now, you are all fact warriors, so I do want you to spread this piece of information about the Democrats while also couching it in the context that the real corruption, obviously, the deepest corruption, the most harmful corruption is coming from, obviously, the MAGA right politicians, leaders, and the Christian right billionaires and techno-fascist billionaires who support them, like Elon Musk, who spent $274 million plus $44 billion to get Donald Trump elected. Get off of Twitter immediately. If you're in the Substack, can we get a yes and? I would like to take a moment to share with everyone how they can be fact warriors. You can be a fact warrior today by going to publicenlightenment.com on Blue Sky. If you do not have a Blue Sky account, you are not a fact warrior. Because in the world, the reality that we have, the social and media and information ecosystem that we are currently a part of, that is also currently an information revolution on par with the Gutenberg Press. The Gutenberg Press, the movable type press, created an information revolution that upended politics and society and science and everything in Europe and the globe for hundreds of years. We are just at the beginning of another disruption right now. And we are currently seeing how when the ecosystem of information during a revolution is co-opted by the feudal lords, by the wealthiest people, by the people who want to have their own agendas pushed and their narratives pushed, that the masses, the us versus them, not you versus me, proletariat, workforce, working class, is able to be manipulated into boosting the corruption. Are you with me? Do you understand? Welcome to our new viewers on YouTube and on Twitch. Can I get a like? Can I get a follow? Can I get a yes and I love you, you love me? How will you be a fact warrior today? We are pushing back against the world of disinformation and hate and division. Do you have a loved one who you have not been able to interact with because of this bullshit disinformation ecosystem that has been created to divide us? Well, we want to talk to you. We want to talk to your loved ones. We want to know what your media diet is. And we are going through right now how to get people on a fact-based stream of information. So you go to publicenlightenment.com, you get a Blue Sky account because you give a fucking shit about your sources of information and the sources of information of everyone else. It's time to grow up and put our big boy pants on and become agents of connection in this world. Agents of human connection, because we cannot have joy without human connection. Do you think Nell had joy? Maybe they depicted Jodie Foster as Nell having joy. Do you think that the Wilson guy, Tom Hanks, had joy? No, he was lonely. We need other human beings in order to experience pure joy. And we are being divided from each other. We are being isolated from each other. Young people especially are falling into the internet and never coming back out. We are becoming isolated. We are getting more anxiety as a people. We are being inundated with messages of fear and manipulation at all times. And so if you believe, like I do, that we must push back against that and be an agent of joy, get a Blue Sky account and say yes and in the chat right now. So you will go to Blue Sky, you will go to publicenlightenment.com, and you will go to the lists, and you will click on fact checkers. You will click on historians. You will click on legal experts. I cannot be in control of how many pictures of their dogs that legal experts share. I guess in a world where your entire profession is being destroyed by the efforts of the right-wing disinformation stream, who are getting people like Leonard Leo to effectively make our Supreme Court a Christian nationalist Supreme Court, I guess you need the help of your therapy animal. And so the legal experts are tripping out and posting their dogs way too often. But I want you to go to the news, where I have created a fact-based pro-democracy stream of information. Yes, there is no such thing as objectivity in journalism, so we'd better at all times be looking for a bias towards facts and democracy. That is what your old pal Deuce is all about. There is never going to be a reality in which we do not have political differences. There will always be people on the left and there will always be people on the right. But if we want to advance a society in a democratic way, if we don't want to be ruled by fascists, we have to have our disagreements about facts, not alternative facts. It couldn't be more plain as day what's happening, the program that the right-wing disinformation Christian nationalist billionaires are pushing, when one of their apparatchiks like Kellyanne Conway tells us in 2010s that they are pushing alternative facts. There's no such thing as alternative facts. There may be things that our mainstream corporate commercialized system for informing the public misses, like issues about the labor movement, like other opinions besides those of Trump voters in diners across America. But there is no such thing as alternative facts. There are only facts. And so we want you to tell everyone about this fact-based stream of information that Rev Deuce has created for you. I believe in a world where we are seeking context for our world, that it is one of the best tools you have to get fact-based information in under 30 minutes a day. Yes, and. So we go through this stream. I do not know what the fuck whoop is. Palestinians are being starved in Gaza by the Israelis, says Mehdi Hassan on Democracy Now! Aaron Rootbar tells us about what the disinformers are up to. Patel gets mad at Patty Murray and says he's not going to tolerate her line of questioning. That is totally screwed. Let's watch that and see what that's about.
Placed on leave FBI employees responsible for the investigation of January 6th. That sounds political to me.
I have not placed anyone on leave who has not violated their ethical obligation or their oath to the Constitution.
So if they were investigating January 6th, you believe they were violating an ethic obligation?
Nope. I think the common theme here is you putting words in my mouth, and I'm not going to tolerate it, nor will the men and women of the FBI.
Well, you did place on leave an analyst responsible for investigating Russia's meddling in the 2016 election. Is that politicization? Is that retribution?
No, not if she broke the law or the ethical guidelines. I don't know which case you're talking about, but that's the standard. And we will hold ourselves inwardly accountable, and we will not be strayed from our mission because people think we are politicizing the Bureau. If you want to talk about someone who was attacked by a weaponized Bureau, you're looking at him. And now he's the director of the FBI, and he's cleaning it up.
Well, I've placed on leave FBI.
What a nightmare. Kash Patel, liar about elections, conspiracy theorist. Someone, look, okay, I am not stumping for the FBI, right? The FBI has done some really messed up stuff, but that was also a long time ago. Of course, they probably do effed up stuff now. Of course, we also know if you are non-MAGA and you believe in pro-democracy movements like Black Lives Matter, right? You know that the FBI infiltrated Black Lives Matter, and they do those things where they try to entrap people. They try to get, there's a story I read a long time ago, and we can find it if you really want me to. You can find it yourself, a verifiable fact-based story about the FBI having some guy in one of the Black Lives Matter communities and constantly trying to get them to buy weapons because they wanted to entrap them. You know, when someone comes into your life and is like, you know what we really need? Hey, I love this. I'll pick you up. You want some food? Hey, let's hang out. Let's talk about all this stuff. And they do that for 6 months, and then they continue with a through line of, shouldn't you probably have a weapon? The FBI does do stuff like that to all manner of people. I would say in general, like they take things that they want to make extreme and make them extreme and create conditions where movements that threaten the status quo, where movements that threaten power are undermined. Yes, absolutely. But Kash Patel is a completely ridiculous figure to be the top cop in our country. I guess that's the Attorney General, but to be the head of the top cop agency federally in our country. It is insane. Welcome in, Mom Rowe. Who will you tell to be a fact warrior today? All of the problems we have in society are the result of our information ecosystem. It's as plain as day. Whatever you care about, whatever your first priority, you have to care about everyone's media diets, because without changing the media diets of Americans, we are totally screwed. It's as plain as day that the manipulation system of informing the public that exists on the right has turned 1/3 of our country against all the rest of us in a successful information war waged by billionaires and foreign adversaries. Yes, and if you agree, type a yes and in the chat. We're so grateful for Shelley saying Patel is horrible and the worst choice for FBI director. He lies with impunity. Wow, okay. Robin saying Cash is well named. Crypto was made for Las Vegas. You know, look, nothing has brought the Substack chat alive more than us just talking about Kash Patel. A jury failed to reach a verdict in the trial of a Michigan police officer who fatally shot a Congolese immigrant at a traffic stop. Okay. More on Kash Patel.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand. You're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this and get you the budget that you are required to have.
And you have no timeline?
No.
Well, we also need a full budget request, not a single paragraph full of wild talking points that we saw with the skinny budget proposal. We're now having a budget hearing without a budget request. So, Director Patel, where is the FY 2026 budget request for the FBI?
It's being worked on, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it? Have you approved it?
Not yet.
When will we get it?
As soon as I can get it from my interagency partners and get it approved.
6 months from now?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm not
Well,
going to
how
make
do
up a timeline.
we as Congress do our budget and our work without that request?
I have a timeline on that.
So again, a totally unfit person. We are living in an insane time in this country. We are going to denormalize this for us all right now. This is not normal. You are not crazy. And in fact, most Americans think this is not normal. Donald Trump's approval numbers are the lowest in history for a president who is so fresh in their administration. There was not an overwhelming mandate to elect Donald Trump. There was a disinformed society that was told Donald Trump is a man of God when it is obvious that he is anything but. The people at the top of the Christian evangelical world believe that Donald Trump is a means to an end, and so they tell their flock, they tell their constituents, they tell their congregations, who they turn into voting blocks using apps like i360, using apps like Gloo, GLOO. They target evangelicals and people who come into the orbit of their friends and family who are evangelicals, and they tell them to vote for a man of God, Donald Trump. They propagandize every Sunday from the pulpit and beam it across the world to people who tune into their live streams, and they tell them to vote for a man of God, Donald Trump, because they believe that Donald Trump will help them to destroy the U.S. Constitution and create a theocracy. If you understand this reality, if you know that this is true in factual context, this is the real conspiracy, MAGA. Can I get a yes and? Thank you, Robin. Trump has nominated Dr. Casey Means, a self-described wellness influencer with no medical degree, to be the nation's Surgeon General. When we talk about coup consequences, we need you to share these coup consequences with everyone on the internet. We are fact-based warriors. Rev Deuce is a little fired up. He hasn't been getting sleep. We are putting this into the chat. Yesterday, we called our Congress members. Today, we are telling the world, our friends, our neighbors, our loved ones, have you seen this shit? And then what we do is we say, you should come and check out what I do every morning, where I learn about these coup consequences. I learn about these coup consequences from my old pal Deuce, who keeps it entertaining and also contextualizes how horrified we should all be. Look at that. Look at that bald eagle bleeding out. I'm fired up today. Robin says in the Substack chat, foreign war will be the trigger for martial law here. Robin, fascinating piece of commentary. Do you mean the Pakistan and India conflagration that is arising? What do you mean? Trump's greatest weapon is not the true force of law, but reluctance of his opponents to fight back. Yes, and the great thing is that we can take that power away from him whenever we choose. Yes, and popular resistance to Trump is working. This is from the Never Trumper, fact-based but conservative outlet, The Bulwark. Yes, and. Now, of course, anyone in the MAGA world would tell you that The Bulwark has Trump derangement syndrome. And so we ask you, MAGA friends and loved ones and neighbors, where do you get your information? Who is telling you about the world? We need you to get back on the fact-based stream of information immediately, because we desperately need you to be with us, united against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, one of the most corrupt individuals to ever exist on the planet Earth. The propaganda is obvious. The propaganda is everywhere. So we need to push the idea that the propaganda is not working, that the resistance to Trump is working. Okay, Robin. Robin is anticipating a hot war in the Substack chat. So we push back against that fear here, and we know that the only way forward, the only path forward, is with Rev Deuce leading the people out of the darkness of information and to the promised land of fact-based information. That's right. In a world divided by disinformers who have created think tanks by the hundreds, who have created Fox News to manipulate 1/3 of our population by saying the most ridiculous shit, by arguing for the great replacement theory on nearly every single episode of the Tucker Carlson show, by seeking to destroy a pluralistic society, a pluralistic democracy, and replace it with a Christian white nationalist theocracy. We know that the only way out of that darkness is with fact. We know that the only way out of that darkness is with truth. We know that the only way out of that darkness is with joy. And so if you believe, like Rev Deuce, that we must worship at the altar of facts. Maybe I need to make one that also has that upbeat music, because that was really fun. Who will you tell about this today? We would like a report from Michaela. Michaela, are your friends still getting ready for the FurryCon, and are you still tuned in? And what do you think about everything that we've been talking about? Lance, where are you? We want to hear from you. Yes, and. Our critiques are not limited to the right-wing disinformation ecosystem. No, friends. Our critiques are for everyone who is acting in a way that does not uplift democracy. And so we are going to take a brief look at the problems with our mainstream media ecosystem, adherent of the tub, being of light and joy. Robin wants to know, Michaela, if there are fuzzy turtles or furry turtles. Are there any furries who like to live as as an alternative cosplay as a turtle? I guess Robin's a fan of turtles. Now, this is what Rev Deuce is doing. We want to critique mainstream corporate media at all times as well, because we need to worship facts, not the status quo. We need to worship facts, not the mainstream legacy media that perpetuates the status quo and gives false equivalence, provides a symmetrical understanding for its readers of an asymmetrical situation. We have a traditional flawed party that is doing their traditional flawed party stuff, and then we have a party of disinformation and extremism that lies about something as sacred as elections in order to pass voter suppression laws, and lies about something as sacred as elections in order to commit attempted coups. Yes, and. And in the face of all of that, we have places like the New York Times, sorry, this is almost seizure-inducing, that talks about Trump's first 100 days a style blitz. So instead of writing an article about Christian nationalism, instead of writing an article about the real conspiracy, instead of informing the public about dominionism, the new apostolic reformation, Mike Huckabee's extremism, Mike Pompeo's extremism, the reality that the first Trump administration and now this Trump administration is rife with members of the Council for National Policy whose stated goal and aim is to destroy American democracy and replace it with a Taliban-like theocracy. Instead, they are writing a massive piece that talks about how this community of fascists communicates with each other and to their base without ever mentioning Christian nationalism, without ever mentioning the real forces at play, without ever mentioning the absolute lack of fitness of any of these people. And in so doing, they actually lend credibility and credence to these people. Yes, and if you agree, yes, and would you like and follow and subscribe, please? Instead of providing the public with fact-based information in the public interest and contextualizing the world in a way that is responsive to the harms that we face as a society in the face of rising fascism, we are given a big dumb thing about the fashion of fascism. I mean, at the very least, write an article about how the MAGA hat is synonymous with fascist imagery. Rev Deuce is producing a video about Charlie Kirk. Rev Deuce found a picture. Let's see. Rev Deuce found a picture of a crowd of MAGA folks. If you want to talk about fashion, talk about the MAGA hat. Yes, and if you want to talk about fashion and fascism, get real about it. Talk about a movement of violence. Talk about a movement that is distorting Christianity. Talk about fashion choices like these. Robin says in the Substack chat that the New York Times did this about Stalin and Hitler too. Yes, they did. Instead of talking about these fashions of the fascist right, they talk about these fashion choices of Usha Vance, whose husband has told the American public from a position of power that he has no problem lying. This is the New York Times, Usha Vance, and the iconography of the Trump women. This is meant to put you to sleep. This is information light. The New York Times does not care about democracy. We turn to our friend Dan Frumkin. Dan Frumkin. I got to put some waves on that graphic. Dan Frumkin says defending democracy, or Joe Kahn says defending democracy is a partisan act and he won't do it. You've got to let them know. MAGA people believe that people on the left are obsessed with the New York Times and they read it like their own Bible. They read it like their own gospel every single day. But that is just pure projection. Yes, of course, the New York Times exists to make people who are wealthy feel good about the world, to create a buying mood. We are going also now to turn to our friend Jameson Fozer. Wait, what? Excuse me, that's not what we wanted. What? What? That's weird. Hold on one second, everybody. We turn to our friend of the program, Jameson Fozer. And we want you to spread this information if you are a fact warrior, if you understand that the only way forward Shelley Barble says, it's amazing that the Constitution and facts are now considered partisan. If you want to blow the minds of your mainstream friends, if you want to say, hey, you know, I listen to this cool cat every single morning, 9 to 11 a.m., my friend Deuce, who is changing the nation by fighting disinformation with hardcore fact-based information in a pro-democracy way. What the hell am I trying to look at? Damn it. Here we go. You will share this with your friend. You will say, what do you think about that? Do you want to go on to the Rev Deuce program tomorrow, fellow retiree or fellow service worker? Because that's a lot of who Rev Deuce is, or fellow stay-at-home parent. All perfect, viable ways to be in this world. Here's just some examples. NPR CEO faces criticism over tweets supporting progressive causes. The Times article doesn't get around to mentioning even a single example of criticism of NPR's Catherine Myers' tweets until the 15th paragraph, when it tells readers Christopher Rufo, a fellow at the conservative Manhattan Institute, called attention to many of Ms. Myers' posts on X and shared a response from Tesla's chief executive Elon Musk, who has responded to one of Mrs. Myers' posts that Mr. Rufo highlighted, saying, "This person is a crazy racist." If NPR wants to truly be national public radio, it can't pander to the furthest left elements in the United States, Mr. Rufo said. The furthest left elements would probably be anarcho-communists who do not have anything that appears like a viable political constituency. So Jamison Foser goes on to say, I should note at this point that the block quote above, the Elon Musk quote Rufo solicited, and the Rufo quote the Times solicited from Rufo constitute 100% of the examples of criticism of NPR CEO tweets contained in the New York Times article headlined, NPR CEO faces criticism over tweets supporting progressive causes. That's it. 2 quotes and 0 paraphrases. Jamison Foser is going to go on and talk about how ridiculous that is, but your buddy Rev Deuce can interject and say that, yes, they wrote a headline, they blasted a headline to their millions of subscribers, the New York Times did, that said that the NPR CEO faces criticism over tweets, and the only examples were literally right-wing disinformation agents. One is someone who is very unwell, Elon Musk, who is addicted to ketamine and takes it every day, according to him, and who has become radical and extreme, who is a disinformer, a racist, a misogynist, a speech suppressor. Thank you, Mom Ro, for reporting back. They do this all the time. They do it in their attacks on trans people, perpetuated by Pamela Paul. Pamela Paul, who used to just be a reviewer of books. I don't know if people also understand that the people who are often writing op-eds are just people that are internal. It is like a version of cronyism. They are internal to the New York Times. And then even though they have no credentials, they are not experts at all, they are given positions where they shape the national agenda, where people who want to destroy the lives of trans people for political gain then go and appear in the halls of Congress and give testimony and refer to articles that were in the New York Times that carry the words and rhetoric of organizations that purport to be concerned about the health of trans youth, but are really just right-wing astroturfs that want to push conversion therapy. Now, David, I do not push back. I want to push back against that. I mean, there are many positives to psychedelic therapy. That is not what Elon Musk is doing. Elon Musk is a troubled person who is obviously ashamed, who is obviously fearful, who is obviously full of anxiety and doubt and feelings of inadequacy. And unfortunately, he has become one of the wealthiest people in the world, and he pushes that fear-based program onto all of us. But so we want you to go and share this with people and say, hey, do you think this is interesting? That's interesting. there is an incredible, let's get friggin' deep, okay? Rev Deuce is getting deep today. David, I'm so sorry I ignored your call for a song, but I'm so excited that people are getting deep into the weeds with Rev Deuce. So I want to hip everyone to, first of all, Michael Hobbs. If you are not listening to every one of Michael Hobbs' podcasts, I need you to. Michael Hobbs is an deeply fact-based person who researches moral panics. That's how he started his career. He has a show that he used to do with a woman called You're Wrong About, where they debunked moral panics. But Michael Hobbs has another show called If Books Could Kill, and it's with a man named Peter Shamshiri. And they did an episode about David Brooks and his book, Time of the Bobos or something like that. Bobos in Paradise. And listening to it is a revelation, because Michael Hobbs looks into all of these claims that David Brooks makes in his book, which he's written about in the New York Times as well, these topics. And it turns out that David Brooks just makes shit up. He just makes shit up. And he makes shit up sometimes in his New York Times columns, and the New York Times does not care. And so we, in addition to talking about our information ecosystem and how it is dominated by the right-wing disinformer matrix, we also talk about the failures of our mainstream political system, mainstream corporate commercialized system for informing the public. If you appreciate this program, please like, follow, subscribe, share everything you can about Rev Deuce and his program. If you could go on to, even if you are watching this on Substack, this would really help Deuce, okay? If you believe in Deuce's program, this is what Deuce needs you to do. Deuce needs you to go to YouTube. Deuce needs you to go to Twitch. I'm not asking you for money, although I would love for you to give me money. Go and follow Deuce on those places. Subscribe to Deuce at those places. Okay, later today, Deuce will release a video about Charlie Kirk that you can use to send to your nephews, to your nieces who are in college, who know about Charlie Kirk, so that they can send it to their friends and lovers and classmates, okay? Because Charlie Kirk is touring the nation telling college students that they are being indoctrinated by liberal academia. Who has the bigger indoctrination program? A history professor who grew up thinking, I really like, European history from 1300 to 1500. I'm going to devote my life to it. I'm going to go teach it at a college where students will self-select to arrive and learn about it from me. Is that someone who has a brainwashing program, or is it a guy who grabs a tailgating tent and a microphone and a speaker and tours the country like a old man shouting from his lawn, telling kids that they're being indoctrinated by their liberal professors, while also hawking fossil fuels because he's funded by fossil fuel billionaires? Okay? I mean, are you kidding my daddy? Look at this. I mean, I have it in my article, so I should show it in my article. My dream is to have a successful TikTok live once where I get 100 MAGA people in there and I show them this article. And you can go and share the information that Rev Deuce creates for you to share with people, to push back on the information ecosystem. Rev Deuce actually desperately needs you to do it. Streamlabs chat just went wild. Okay. Look at this. This is a billionaire. They're literally sitting in front of a sign that says, "You're being brainwashed," as they brainwash kids. I see that we've got a call, although I don't hear it audio-wise. Hello?
Hello? Hello, hey.
Hello, you're on the air with Rev Deuce. How are you?
I'm doing good. My name's Ron. I'm calling in regards to the Board Certified Information Nutritionist. I was seeking certification, but I'm not sure who to contact and what actually needs to be done in terms of an application.
Thanks, Ron. Ron, I'm going to reach across the internet and tell you I got your back. This hot tub is a space of joy and love and connection and human support, giving and gratitude. So I'm grateful, Ron, for you calling in. Ron, I made that up. Ron, I am not a board certified information nutritionist, but I am an information nutritionist. Guess what? There's no such thing. Rev Deuce is revolutionizing the game. Right? So in a world where we are inundated with disinformation at all times, I recognize that democracy is destroyed and dying. The fascist program is built on propaganda and disinformation. We have 1/3 of our country cheering for the fascist program because of disinformation. And so I am doing every possible thing I can to spread the gospel, the idea, the understanding that all of our outcomes are the result of our information ecosystem. When people are so worried, they say, what can I do in this time? I don't want to go to a protest. I don't know what to do. I don't have any faith in the Democratic Party. I don't have faith in anything. Well, guess what? That's because Vladimir Putin, Iran, China, Elon Musk, Steve Bannon, Christopher Rufo, they have purposefully destroyed our trust in those things. And so what are we doing in response? We are trying to build a religious movement where we worship facts. How do you feel about that, Rod?
To be honest with you, I feel disheartened because I already told my parents that this is kind of the route that I was going towards and that I was real serious about it. So to hear that it's all kind of made up, it does hurt a little bit. But then you kept talking and, I think my new goal is going to be an information and media ecologist.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, that's interesting. So you're going to start your own version. I mean, maybe some of these folks, so we're going to go back to this article in the conversation, maybe some of the folks who work at the University of Washington Center for an Informed Public would probably say that they are information ecologists, but that's so fascinating. So you're going to become an information ecologist. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, Ron?
Yeah. It seems like to really get this going, the first thing I'm going to need to do is set up some form of board and then receive certification through them.
Fascinating.
So I feel like that's probably the route to go.
Well, amazing. I mean, and I would love to apply. I would love to bring my certification around the world, I would love to proudly display it behind me, right? Like a dentist or a cardiologist. I would love to have a PhD in information ecology. I believe I have a lay one.
Yeah, an honorary probably. Maybe I'll get an honorary first and then go for an actual.
That's interesting. What are your credentials?
Oh, man. I should really work on that.
We could start a college like Trump University, and then when we are attacked in Florida for a bunch of allegations that we are a fraudulent university, we can pay off the Attorney General of Florida $25,000 to make those claims go away. And then later we can become the Attorney General of the United States because we are corrupt and our name is Pam Bondi.
Yeah, luckily in Florida, what we could do is we could do the purchasing for the whole campus, like a whole land purchase. And then whenever it all gets found out as fraud and we file for bankruptcy, we don't have to lay off the actual, Anchorage. We don't have to lay off our all the other assets we have to get rid of except for land. So we would be able to hold those here in Florida.
Okay, cool. That sounds good. Sounds like you know a lot about land in Florida.
No, just grifting in general, You got to get something going. My parents are really on my ass.
Your parents are on your ass to establish a grift?
Well,
son,
like
you better
to make
get
something
grifting.
of yourself or whatever, but it sounds like grift to me.
Yeah. Well, look, there's such a thing as good grifts and bad grifts. You know what I mean? I guess if it's not a grift if you're open about it, though, is it?
Yeah, I mean, like if it's already ingrained in state law, can it really be called a grift?
Well, yeah, I think so, because then it's like they're establishing something. and then they're grifting off of it. So I think so, right? Like bad agents and people who are racked with fears program, they can certainly make it to the halls of power. We know that's true.
All right. Well, I gotta get going because I got some brainstorming I gotta do about this board certification stuff.
I guess I demoralized Ron a little bit. Ron's a little overdue.
No, it's just more work for me. It's all right, man. Love you.
All right. Goodbye, Ron. Ron, it was so good to talk to you. I love you too. We're grateful for everyone's ideas here. So, Ron, thank you so much for calling into the program. And you out there can call into the program, any one of you. I can't believe I do this every single morning. How are you going to tell to do it, to come and watch? Because we're having so much fun. Be a fact warrior in the face of giant dickheads like Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is a giant dickhead who wants to destroy American democracy, and the Christian nationalist billionaires heard about it and said, we would love to get you on our program, Steve Bannon. Jason works with MAGA people. We need those MAGA people to be coming into the program, Jason. We desperately need to talk to more people. That was really good. So David is admitting that he was Ron calling in. And the thing about that, David, was that was really good. You sounded like you didn't like Deuce. So that was really good acting. You sounded like you were exasperated by Deuce, like that man who called in on the TikTok program that we did a couple months ago, who basically was the comic book store character from The Simpsons. Now, I don't know if I showed you all of the images, because we're going to wrap up the program here in a second. So I want to show you. Did I show you this one? No, I think I did. I made some crazy images last night, y'all. I made some crazy images. I showed you this one, right? Yeah, we saw this one earlier. There's another one that's really good. Although I love this divide hat. Trying to get ChatGPT to make you a hat that says MAGA while someone is sucking down a milkshake of dog shit and broken glass is not something that is possible. Yes, when Rev Deuce thwarts disinformation by smacking the horrible media diet out of a MAGA person's hand, he is able to turn his right hand all the way around. He becomes a what's the word? Contortionist. Did I show you this one? I'm just not even gonna mess around with going back and forth. I just have these all loaded into this one particular scene. And so I've told it about using Severance's depictions, and it is doing it for me, which is great. I really like this one. I really love this one. You're not seeing it. Oh, that's interesting. I can just click around. Look at this one, guys. It's incredible. So I typed into ChatGPT, I said, have Rev Deuce. I wanted Rev Deuce to actually be chasing Bannon, and they wouldn't depict Bannon. So we got to a place in a negotiation where they were like, we can depict someone who's kind of like Steve Bannon. And I said, okay, let's call him Cranon. And so then I'm typing into this space of AI in this weird way. I'm saying, have Cranon be running from Deuce. But instead, they decided to put the poop and have Bannon be chasing Rev Deuce in a moment of doubt. And then I wanted the whole ground to be a brain. I wanted the whole ground. That's funny, Radisson. I wanted the whole ground to be a brain, and then have the mountains be like the edge of like the skull, right, of the American brain. But it seems like they captured something here, you know. And then this one, I think, is just fabulous. I love the depiction behind Rev Deuce's head that's like Renaissance Jesus paintings. I really tried hard to get the newspaper in Crannon's right hand to say shit, because he's flooding the zone with shit, but it didn't work. And then I don't think you all have seen this one. I like this one a lot. This is Rev Deuce in his origin story as he walks through the world looking at sources of information. And they say to conform and to give up and to consume and to obey. And in that moment, Rev Deuce realized that he needed to be a fact warrior. Oh yeah, they didn't cut off the sleeves in this one. And yes, I definitely inputted that Rev Deuce should have huge muscles. Yes, Jason, it is sad that people on the MAGA information stream want to just cause a bunch of discord. So how will you all be fact warriors today in the information war that is raging against all of us at all times? How will you bring more people into this space? How will you get more people to follow the show? How will you get more people to understand what we talk about here? We talk about the consequences of Donald Trump's coup and how it is destroying the country, how he is destroying the country for self-enrichment, how he is one of the most corrupt individuals to ever exist in American society, let alone human society. How we all need to be fact warriors during this time, spreading fact-based information every single time we are online. If you are online and you are not spreading fact-based information, log off, go for a walk, call a friend, go for a hike, ride a bike, ride a trike. Put the disinformation on a pike and shoot it into space. We're so grateful for our furry friends today who started watching the program in the morning. I think that they have left by now. But we are so grateful for our friend Michaela, who wants everyone in the furry community to be getting fact-based information. What community are you a part of, and how will you help your community get fact-based information? Well, guess what? The way you can do it is you can interact with the products that your old pal Deuce has created for you. Pardon me. This show is getting better and better. So 4 websites to find peaceful protests. You can share that with everyone you know, because people need to be protesting every single moment of every single day. We are in fascism. We are about to become Russia. We are about to become Vladimir Putin's Russia, which is nothing more than a mafia state. It is happening before our eyes with the crypto corruption that these fear-based dickheads are pushing on all of us. A strategic crypto reserve? Are you kidding my friggin' daddy? This show works best when there is interaction, so I encourage you to start building up the courage to interact with Deuce, to call into the program. And to those of us who are adherents of the Mega Church of Joy, I do want to apologize from the bottom of my heart that we do not do more of the religious programming. That we have married the religious programming with the desire by the real person behind Rev Deuce to change the world with information, fact-based pro-democracy information. But at the same time, I will never back down from my mission, because I am a true believer. I am a joyful future incarnate. Yes, and I am someone with a Messiah complex, so please follow me like the Pied Piper I am. Flood the zone with facts about due process. That's what this article says if you click on it. To MAGA with love, the disinformation is coming from the right. We need to break our MAGA loved ones off of the purpose-built disinformation stream. I need you to share these things with the people in your life and report back to me. You can't give up on your MAGA loved ones. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to say it. Because the alternative is a hot war where they take all of the millions of guns that they've purchased. There are more guns in America than there are people. And they are going to be in power. Kash Patel runs the FBI. Pete Hegseth runs the Department of Defense. He got rid of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and replaced him with a crypto bro who does business with Peter Thiel. That information is in the article context. Dems cozy up to Palantir as Peter Thiel nears his goal of techno-fascism. Look at this guy. It's all in here. And I tell you about other places you can go to get fact-based information. Sorry, I'm yelling. So please tell everyone about Rev Deuce's lists and then have them come on the show and report back to me. Yes, and. I love you. How will you support Rev Deuce today? How will you be a fact warrior today? I gotta go. I'm so sorry we didn't do a song today. Rev Deuce is just throwing everything he can into the world, into the ether. Please go to YouTube and watch Rev Deuce's YouTube videos all the way to the end and share them with someone. Do you know someone who's MAGA who talks about liberal media bias? Well, guess what? Rev Deuce made a video for you to share. This video is stuck at 73 views. 73 views. Fox brainwashes you. 45 views. Guys, are we doing everything we can to proselytize to the world about the need for fact-based information? I'm sorry to be so stern. So I love you, you love me. We are an intergalactic family. Rev Deuce needs 50 followers on Twitch. Thank you, Mom Bro. Can you take to your social media and repost it? Can all of you take to your social media and repost it? Be fact warriors. Spread the articles of Rev Deuce. Spread the fact-based sources of information that Rev Deuce has on the Blue Sky lists. Go to TikTok Public Enlightenment. Go to the reposts. Repost all of that information. Be like these people you see on the screen who have liked Rev Deuce's content. We are going to grow this movement. Rev Deuce will never tire and never waver. Who will you tell that you love today? Who will you lift up today? Disinformation Negator. See you later, Disinformation Negator. I love that, Madison. I love all of you so much. Thanks for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. You have been worshiping at the Mega Church of Joy. And before I leave you, I want to leave you with the daily dose so that you can go through your day and you can be someone who in every single moment is aware of your energy and how you are interacting with others. Self, today I endeavor to be a better teammate than yesterday. I vow to keep it simple, to listen better, commit harder, and to give more expertly. It is my joyous burden to make those around me appear as rock stars and support the ideas of others. I will move past obstructions, drop insecurities, and put trust in myself and others. I will attempt to emotionally connect with whomever I meet. People usually laugh when I used to perform this show and I would say that part of the prayer, but you should. Why not? Why wouldn't you connect with everyone that you meet? I say this in the spirit of best intention. Sometimes it's not always easy. Rev Deuce understands that. So how will you be a beautiful being of light in every single moment and in every single interaction that you have today? It takes patience, but patience begets connection and connection begets joy. I love you, you love me. I'll see you on the flip side.